Breaking news from the NBA, LeBron James has picked up his player option that will pay him $52.6 million next season. That's according to ESPN. It's a widely expected move for the Lakers superstar, who will receive just below the maximum salary and retain the no-trade clause he negotiated last summer. This fall, LeBron is set to play his 8th season in LA and 23rd in the NBA, which would surpass Vince Carter for most all time. NBA host and analyst for CBS Sports, Gonzalez, joining us now. Talk about a good day to be LeBron. These are the types of problems and decisions I want to be making in my life, but we'll leave that alone right now. John, what does this decision mean for not only LeBron, but for the near future for the Lakers?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think we're always barreling towards this conclusion here, Mike, because as you mentioned, LeBron's going to be 41 in December. He has that $52.6 million player option. It allows him to retain his no-trade clause. The other option was he could opt out and then they could sign him maybe to another 1-and-1. But from the Lakers' perspective, that made less sense. I mean, I'm sure LeBron probably wanted that. But from the Lakers' perspective, if you wait, LeBron's money comes off the books next offseason, and all of a sudden that's a nice chunk of change that you could allocate to more and younger resources as you try to build around Luka long term, because Luka's also extension eligible. And then if you also wait, then you open up that 2033 first-round draft pick that you could package along with your 2031. Now, they could still trade the 2031 before then, but as you're looking at this whole thing, taking a step back, seeing the 30,000-foot view, it just makes a lot of sense for the team to go, okay, we were the 3rd seed last year in the Western Conference. If we just keep our powder dry a little bit here, we bring LeBron back, obviously he opts in, but we don't do much else aside from like on the margins, and we wait to make 2026 our big offseason. Well, now you can make wholesale changes and really potentially rebuild this thing on the fly around Luka as LeBron ages out.
Now, you mentioned the 30,000-foot view. As a fan, if I'm sitting here, I'm looking at LeBron James, 22, 23 years going into the league. You're talking about company with Vince Carter. That's good company to keep, obviously, but it's a longevity thing. How many more years do you think LeBron has left? I know it's a tough question because you still see him at this age perform at a high level.
Yeah, I mean, like, think about last year. He won a gold medal in the summer where, Steph Curry had the most memorable shot of that tournament. But if we're talking about who was the best player on that team in its entirety, it was probably LeBron. And then he goes into the Lakers season where the Lakers got off to kind of like a little bit of a rocky start. And then all of a sudden, Anthony Davis went down and the Lakers got better just with LeBron James out there. And then they traded for Luka and then end up as the 3rd seed. So how many more games or how many more seasons does he have left in him? I think more than just one, actually. I mean, I know he's going to be 41 in December, and as you mentioned, he's going to break a tie with Vince Carter for the most seasons ever. He's also 50 games away from playing in the most games ever. That record is held by Robert Parrish, the former Celtics great. LeBron's going to take that over too. It wouldn't surprise me at all if LeBron plays another year after this. Now, whether or not it's with the Lakers, that's to be determined. I suspect if he stays with the Lakers, he's going to have to take a pretty significant pay cut. But the guy's done everything you could possibly ask, and to be 41 in December and to be playing at this level is just so remarkable. He's done so many things in his career that defy belief, so it would not surprise me at all if he had another year beyond this.
He's made more than $500 million in his career already on the court, but I imagine he wouldn't mind another ring. Are the Lakers going to be enough to compete with OKC now in the West with this move?
Yeah, I mean, potentially. They were the 3 seed last year. Oklahoma City, no doubt about it, is the heavy favorite in the Western Conference. But if you look up and down the Western Conference standings, there are, at a minimum, possibly more, 13 teams that have designs on just making the playoffs. And then of those, how many could potentially be contenders? Well, okay, we saw Oklahoma City win in 7 games in the finals. But, hey, they had to go to 7 games against the Denver Nuggets. Now, that has a lot to do with Nikola Jokic being the best player in the world. Apologies to SGA as the MVP. But he took them to the brink. So Oklahoma City is not completely unbeatable. The Pacers took them to 7 games. The Pacers had an incredible season, and who knows what happens if Tyrese Halliburton doesn't go down. So to answer your question in a long way, yes, the Lakers could potentially be contenders in the Western Conference. Again, LeBron is playing at a really high level. You get a full season of him and Luka. Now, they have a lot of moves to make still. Dorian Finney-Smith, he could potentially opt out. There's been some rumblings about whether or not he was going to stick around. Kind of surprising, to be honest with you, because I'm not sure that there's money for Dorian Finney-Smith to get a raise, a bump in salary. Also, they need a center, as everybody knows, right? They were running Jackson Hayes out there. They were starting him. And then once they got into the actual games, they'd yank him out and they'd go small ball center with LeBron and Dorian Finney-Smith. And, of course, everybody can use shooters, including the Lakers. So still some moves to be made on the margins. But, yeah, the Lakers are in the mix along with 6, 8, 10 other teams to potentially win the Western Conference.
All right, John Gonzalez, this is a big domino to fall, but as we mentioned, an expected one, so we'll see what it means, in fact, for the Lakers moving forward. But thanks for your help here. Okay, let's take a look at some of the contract stuff for both LeBron James and Luka Doncic. LeBron opting in that $52.6 million player option, as ESPN reported for next season, would be an NBA record 23rd NBA season next year. Luka, meanwhile, $46 million coming his way, $49 million player option in 2026-2027. He's eligible to sign up for a 4-year extension for an estimated $229 million on August 2nd. All right, let's go ahead and bring in NBA reporter for CBS Sports, Sam Quinn, now to get reaction to LeBron opting in to his player contract here. Of course, player option, I should say, $52.6 million. Sam, what's your initial reaction for what this means for LeBron and the Lakers?
So last offseason, LeBron offered to take a pretty significant pay cut. He was going to go down around $15 million. The idea was to help the Lakers build their team. They were going to use that flexibility to chase Klay Thompson. There were a couple of other players on his list that he was interested in playing with. They ultimately didn't get Klay, but that offer was pretty significant. It was a sign that he was willing to do what it took to help the Lakers compete for a championship. He didn't make that offer this offseason, and it's interesting to consider why. Well, the Lakers are set up for 2026 cap space. They're going to have the space to completely remake the team around Luka Doncic if that's what they want to do. But for that to happen, they're probably going to have LeBron either off of the team or at the very least at a significantly lower number. So what do we make from that, right? Well, if LeBron had opted out and given up some money this year, he probably would have wanted a player option for next season, similar to the one that he just exercised, a chance to make sure that he could have stayed on the team at a pretty significant salary. Either the Lakers didn't offer him such a player option, or he didn't take it. It has to be one of the two, right? So what do we make from that? Well, I think the easiest takeaway here is that we might be headed towards the end of the partnership between LeBron James and the Lakers. He wants to compete for championships in the present, but they have to think about building a team around Luka Doncic long term that can compete for championships for 5, maybe 10 years. Those are incompatible timelines, right? If the Lakers want to go all in on winning right now, that means throwing their draft picks into trades. That means giving out long-term contracts. It doesn't seem as though the Lakers are especially eager to do that based on the market that exists right now. Dorian Finney-Smith, an impending free agent with a player option for $15 million. There's some rumblings that he might opt out because he wants a long-term deal. Well, if the Lakers were fully committed to winning this year and only this year, they'd give him that long-term deal. But they're not. They have to think about the timeline of their now 26-year-old superstar. So what this suggests to me, above all else, is that the Lakers are being cautious in the way that they're building their team. They want to have the flexibility to have that max cap space next offseason. They want to preserve their draft picks. They don't want to give out long-term money. So what does that mean for this year? It probably means that they're not pushing all their chips into the center of the table.
Sam, I understand what you're saying there in the short term, but LeBron, he's on the back nine of his career here, obviously. So what is their next move if they want to actually try to win a title with LeBron and Luka on the roster together?
Well, the first order of business here is going to be getting a center, right? They tried to get Mark Williams at the deadline. They couldn't complete the deal because of a physical. They go through the end of the season into the playoffs with no center, and they get killed inside by the Minnesota Timberwolves. They have to find a serviceable center somewhere. So how are they going to do that? They have this $5.7 million taxpayer mid-level exception. They're going to use that in free agency, probably get the best center that they can find. The names they've been linked to, Brook Lopez, Clint Capella, guys who are older, probably not not long-term options. These are stopgaps, right? And they can be helpful for a year, but they're probably not guys that are going to be long-term Lakers, just given their age, given where they are in their careers. So if you add one of those guys, does that, get you into the mix with Oklahoma City, with Houston? I'm going to go ahead and say probably not. Now, it could at least get you to a point where you're good enough inside that, like, you can take advantage of all that ball handling you have. You can, hang there with Minnesota in the first round. But if they want to genuinely compete for a championship, I don't see a way that they can do that without making a significant trade involving that 2031 first-round pick, without adding, an on-ball defender, which they are really lacking right now. They have a lot of holes that they need to fill, and if all they're doing is using that taxpayer mid-level exception, I'm very skeptical that they're actually going to be able to fill them.
All right, a lot of decisions need to be made there in LA. Now let's stay in the same city, why don't we? James Harden, he's got a player option as well, a little less expensive than LeBron, sitting at $36 million. What do you expect to happen there with Harden and the Clippers?
Yeah, I expect James Harden to opt out, but that doesn't mean I think he's going to leave, right? I think what's going to happen is he's going to opt out. He's going to tell the Clippers, take care of your business, whatever it is you're going to do. They've been talked about as a team that could use the full mid-level exception and around $14 million. Maybe they want to make a trade. Basically, go take care of your business. I'll re-sign. I'll take what's left, what I can legally take, which is roughly going to be around where he is now in the mid-30s. But I want a player option for the 26-27 season, which ironically LeBron does not have now. And I suspect the Clippers are going to give it to him, right? That partnership's been very productive for both sides. Harden was an all-star last year. Playoffs didn't go as planned, but I think as far as their roster building dynamic goes, they're taking this on a year-to-year basis. Having Harden on a 1+1 makes sense, but if you could improve the team around him first, of course you're going to try to do that.
Sam Quinn, thanks for hopping on with us with this breaking news of LeBron opting in to that player option. Now, of course, today was deadline day for these player options. Tomorrow, free agency begins in the NBA. June 30th, 6 p.m. Eastern. That's when all the fun starts, and summer league's going to get started towards the end of the week, July 5th through the 8th. Free agent signing periods July 6th at 12:01 p.m. Eastern, and then Las Vegas Summer League July 10th through the 20th.